So once again, I'm Mike Dempsey, Vice President of AEPE, but more importantly, I've been a 32-year member of the public service. I've been a forest ranger in Southern Alberta, Western Alberta, and Northern Alberta. I've done everything from plant trees, to fight fires, to watch the oil and gas companies do what they do. Now I say watch, and I say that purposely because since this video was finished, a huge portion of the work that we used to do has been turned over to the Alberta Energy Regulators. You may have seen this in the news, through the Responsible Energy Development Act. Now, what that means is that I used to do specifically lately, my work was to lay fines and charges against companies that messed up in the bush. Now, that work, including approvals and penalties and everything to do with oil and gas development in the bush. Now, through an act of legislation, that work has been turned over to the Alberta Energy Regulator. That's the old ERCB on steroids. The ERCB is still there. They looked after everything under the ground. We used to look after everything above the ground. Now, the Alberta Energy Regulator is looking after everything to do with oil and gas and regulated pipelines and mineable sands, oil sands, and so on. They're doing all of it. Now, the interesting thing about that, they needed people. So they came to... They advertised, and they took about 150 of the people that I used to work for and enticed them with salaries between 25% and 70% more to go over to the new regulator. Section 10 of the Responsible Energy Development Act says that there will be no union allowed. It actually says that. It's non-public service. And in fact, the board of directors for this new regulator is from their ex-CEOs of oil companies. And they're not funded from the public purse, they're funded by the fees and levies on the oil companies. So in effect, the regulator looking after the natural resources in the oil and gas is now the oil and gas sector themselves. So this is what you call stealth. This is privatization by stealth. You don't see people losing their jobs. They've been moved, they've been enticed with 25 to 70% more salaries, paid for by oil and gas. But even if you have the best inspectors in the world out there, how seriously are they going to be looked at by every other country in the world if they have no credibility because they look to be on the payroll of the oil companies, because that's where their salaries are coming from. So that's kind of what happened since then. And that new regulator is just getting set up now, and there's a brand new one coming out called AEMERA. Everybody here heard of AEMERA yet? Okay, this is another one coming out, the Alberta Environmental Monitoring, Evaluation and Reporting Agency. All right, the federal and the provincial government came up with a couple of years ago an idea to monitor groundwater issues, which is very important to us, very important, because of fracking and what that does to the groundwater. So that's a great concern, but the government has decided that they will give the companies the ability to monitor, and then we check the monitors. That's what this AEMERA is for. The only problem is, to be in an AEMERA, they don't even have to have scientific credentials. Okay, so the government can hire whoever they want to evaluate the water and air quality in the province of Alberta. This legislation has gone through, and they'll be setting it up here in the next little bit. Now, I don't want to just make everything sound so bad and pessimistic and so on, but you know, on this page here, some of those places you saw that were on strike there, the assisted living facilities. We won every one of those strikes. Even though we're out for 300 days. We had people coming from everywhere. We had people stopping after work who would come in and just drop off some hot chocolate and cookies and stuff. We had the UFCW from Safeway stop in and donate to every single person on that strike line, about 80 people, $200 worth of winter clothing from Mark's Work Warehouse. They went and bought it and gave it to them just because because they're fighting a good fight. And these people are making less than 20 bucks an hour. These are LPNs making 14 bucks an hour. Okay, these companies are getting money from the government to pay them a fair wage. Instead, they're sinking it into profits instead of paying them that wage. And so that's where a lot of that money's going to. But we won those, and we're going to keep winning them. There's more coming up in the pipe here. I could read off a few, but I'll tell you right now, we're going to keep fighting it. And Alberta Land Titles Office. Now, this tells you the PCs are doing it simply because it's a philosophical thing, because it's good to privatize. Because currently, Alberta Land Titles is making a profit of $69 million a year. $69 million a year, they want to privatize it. I, as a forest ranger, need land titles. I have to go and check on stuff in the bush, and I need to know exactly whose chunk of land that is. I, as a public servant, am going to have to pay for that now, which will even cost taxpayers even more money than the $69 million that we're going to lose. So this is a philosophical thing, so don't buy into this argument that we're saving money, any kind of money whatsoever. This is just a plan to do it for philosophical reasons. They lost about $500 million in privatized liquor stores. It's a philosophical thing. But I want to offer you some hope, too. Bill 46, injunction. I was the vice chair of the bargaining committee that we ran into problems with the government. They didn't like us looking for 3% per year for 2 years. So they wouldn't agree with us, so went to mediation. Didn't like mediation, went to arbitration. Their own laws they set up because we didn't have the right to strike. Well, guess what? They didn't like the fact that we might do well in arbitration, so they created a law to break the law, Bill 46. Bill 46 comes into play, and they say, well, if you don't reach an agreement with us and we're offering you 0, 0, 1, and 1, you accept this, or else we're going to trigger this law. So we took it to court, and we won, and that's a double win, because that every other agreement out there, whether it's private or public, will now be held up to this, the fact that the government cannot do that. So we got to go after them, not just politically, but also legally as well, too. To that end, our union recently, in our provincial executive, authorized the spending of, on a campaign of $3.5 million to change the government. We're going to go after MLAs, PC MLAs, who we're going to target. I mean, the ones that just won by a few hundred votes, you know, we're going to specifically look at those ones. We're going to go after. We're going to go with all our brothers and sisters, not just in AUPE, and we're going to target those specific MLAs and hold them accountable, and we're going to have rallies, and we want to get them kicked out, basically. This is what we do. We got to get them. The only way to change things is to kick them out of power, and so that's what we're going to do. Yeah. With everybody's assistance. You saw the crowds they had in Wisconsin. We have to have crowds. We can't do this on our own. We can't split up in factions. All the minorities, every single one of us, we have to be united, because these schemes of theirs are I'll tell you one thing that really pissed me off when I was on the strike line. I was a strike captain down there in Monterey, down in Calgary, and the owner of Monterey said, "I'm not in the healthcare business. I'm in the hospitality business. I should be able." He considers looking after your aged parents and brothers and sisters, hospitality business, so he can do whatever the hell he wants. He can charge whatever. $14 an hour, while they're charging you $4,000 a month to keep your parents there per person. They're paying their workers $14 an hour. So there's a big struggle coming, but what they've done is united us. We have to remember they've united us. We have the tools. We're going to go after them. We'll be uniting with everyone. Pensions alone. I'll just say one thing about pensions, because not everybody has a pension. We often wonder, how does this affect all of us, right? But because I went and visited a couple of MLAs, Fensky and Chow, and talked to them about the pensions. There's nothing wrong with the pensions. They're sustainable. I know it's because I happen to sit on the pension board, okay? I'm actually a board member. They're sustainable. There's nothing wrong with them. Why are you doing this? And they got mad at me, and they blurted out a couple of things that they probably shouldn't have. And they both said to me, well, we're doing it because in the future we'll be moving to alternate service delivery models. That's a code word for privatization. So they're looking forward to a day when there's no more people coming and working for the government. It's all privatized, so you have nobody coming into the pensions to pad it, in order to create a benefit for people who are retiring. Okay, so that's something we got to really be careful about. Is they're coming after everybody. So but they're uniting us too. Like these things that are happening, these are grassroots level. You don't get more grassroots than this. I love it, democracy in action. When stuff acts up, I thought I was the only guy to have a projector packet in front of people, embarrass the hell out of myself, want to crawl under a rock and die. But it didn't happen. It turned out great. And while that was going on, everybody networked. And so we all learned something. So, you know, you'll be hearing a lot more from us.